Alhaji.
Ẹ ṣe sùúrù. Ẹ fọkàn yín balẹ̀, ẹ ṣe sùúrù.
Alhaji.
Sùúrù ni gbogbo nǹkan gbà. Ẹ rí mbẹ̀ ni.
Ó ti kó gbogbo ẹrù kúrò nílé.
Allah, la ilaha illallah.
Pain ló kéré jù báyìí. Kò sí nínú ilé yẹn.
Kò sí nǹkan mbẹ̀ mọ́.
Ó ti kó everything.
Allahu akbar.
Kò dẹ̀ mú nǹkan kan wọnú ilé.
Kò bú nǹkan kan wọ bí.
Ó kó everything.
Ó sì kó gbogbo nǹkan lọ. Mo sọ fún yín. Mo wí fún yín. Mo ní ó ń sẹ̀tì yín fún ìyá ni.
Ó sẹ̀tì mi fún ìyá.
Ìyá ló dé yìí.
Ìyá yẹn jẹ mí.
Ìyá ló dé yìí. Rahmat. La ilaha illallah. Tó lè rọrùn wọ̀ pẹ̀lú gbogbo eléyìí tó ń ṣe yìí náà. Ó ti kó gbogbo rẹ̀ lọ. Ó sẹ̀tì yín fún ìyá ni.
Ìyá yẹn jẹ mí.
Allah.
Abdullahi, ìyá yẹn jẹ mí.
Subhanallah ma ṣe kúrò.
Èmi.
Kí lẹ́sìn o?
Mo fẹ́ pè.
Ẹ pè.
Kò lè.
Ẹ pè báwọn. Ẹ pè báwọn.
Kò lè jẹ́ gbé.
Gbogbo ibi kíbi tó bá wà amòmọ́lẹ̀ mbẹ̀. Amòmọ́lẹ̀ mbẹ̀.
Àwọn mi ń gbọ́ pé kìnìún yẹn náà.
Tọ́ ó tó bẹ́ẹ̀ náà. Tó bẹ́ẹ̀ náà. Kí lẹ́lẹ́ fi sí orúkọ rẹ̀ báwọn.
Love of my life.
Òun náà ilé mọ̀ yìí. Òun ló ṣe é lágbàkọ yìí. Love of your life. Tọ́ ẹgbà kan yìí. Náà ẹ bá sọ̀rọ̀ báwọn.
Hello. Salam alaikum.
Ó tún sálámọ̀ sí mi.
Ẹ dá lóhùn kí ẹ má jẹ gbèsè yín lọ́dọ̀ náà. Ẹ dá lóhùn.
Ọ̀dà. Wa alaikum salam.
Ẹ jù sí síkà báwọn. Rahmat! Alágbàkò ni ọ o. Alágbàkò ni ọ. Nínú àwọn alágbàkò number 1 ni ọ. Olòṣì ni ọ. Oníkẹ́sìbù ńlá alágbàkò ẹ̀dá. Sọ́bẹ̀ tí ń sọ̀rọ̀ yìí. Ó mọ̀ àbáyé rẹ fẹ́ ta ni. Ó mọ̀ mí. Abdullahi ọlọ́run gbẹ́bẹ̀.
Àbọ̀ tí o fẹ́ sori burúkú. Tí o fẹ́ sori burúkú Rámọ́tà. Ìwọ ọmọ ọlọ́run gbẹ́bẹ̀ tó kúrò ní ẹ̀ bí o tó sọ́yìn. Rámọ́tà.
Alhaji, kí ló dé tẹ̀ ń pariwo?
Ṣé mi ò lè wọnú fóònù?
Ẹ mọ̀ wọlé. Sẹ́yìn ló lẹ̀ ń pariwo.
Mi ló sọ pé èmi ń pariwo Rámọ́tà, èmi ń pariwo àbí? Mo ti gbọ́ ṣọgbọ́ ìgbà tó ti ṣerúgbọ̀n fún Bọ́lá Tinubu ni mo ti mọ̀ pé nǹkan ti ṣe mí. Torí bàbá yìí ò ní rúgbọ̀n yìí lájọ tí mo ti mọ̀.
Ọdẹ ní.
Máa gbọ́ Rámọ́tà. Program tèmi lélẹ̀. Ṣọ́ọ́rí 50 million naira tí mo fún ẹ àti káà tí mo fi ṣe surprise fún mi ní méjèèjì. Mo wá fà ẹ́ sílẹ̀. Mo fi ẹ́ sí kóòtù Ọlọ́run kó máa bá tiẹ̀ lọ. Ẹ kó adúrú fúlùsì mi fún wa.
50 million.
That is it.
Àti Sayara. Mọ́tò.
Mo fún
Subhanallah ma yushriku.
So kò sọ bí mo ṣe máa gbàjẹ́ send account details ẹ refund owó mi gbé mọ́tò mi padà wá mi ò bá ifá wàhálà kankan máa bá tiẹ̀ lọ.
Naam.
50 million yín ti lọ o. Alhaji, balloon tó bá ti fò wọ́n kì í náwó lẹ̀ fún mọ́.
Parọ́ wọlé. Bàálù tó bá ti lè yín ojú wọlé wọlé. Kò ń ṣe paragon tí yóò dá dúró wọlé. Ó ti lọ nù. Olo ti lọ. Àbí kí ni tó sọ?
Olo ti lọ.
Naam.
50 million ti lọ. Mọ́tò mi tán Rahmat. Hello. Ṣé nǹkan kò ṣe é? Mo bó ṣe lè wọnú fóònù kí n wá bá.
Ẹ lè wọnú bẹ́ẹ̀ ni wàhálà tó wà.
Ayé ẹ máa bàjẹ́ mi màá ní.
Bó ti sọ òun yóò rí bẹ́ẹ̀ fún ọ.
Mi ò máa ń ṣe bọ̀lọ́ ẹ̀sìn ló máa jẹ́ kí n calm down èmi ò máa ń ṣe dìdìrín.
Kò sẹ́sìn kan lára tọ̀. Náà.
Ẹ wo mọ́tò ni mo gbé travel Alhaji. Èmi ti relocate, a máa ríra later. Ó dàbọ̀ o.
Hello.
O ti travel.
Hello Rahmat.
O ti travel. O ti ṣe ìjìrà lọ́nu.
Ibo ló ń lọ gan báyìí bó mo ti ẹ̀mọ̀ tí mò ń lọ gan báyìí.
Allah yasọ lè jalali wal ikram. Tọ́ ìyẹn o ti yanjú mọ́ hospital ló kàn báyìí. Àwọn àdó admit yín.
Smart guy in the mall.
Rasodi wàláì smart láti lè. Ó set yín up fún ìyá ni. Ẹ sá jẹ́ mọ́ lọ.
Àbúlá ìyá yẹn jẹ mí gan.
Wàláì.
Ìyá jẹ mí gidi ni.
Ẹ ṣe sùúrù ẹ pẹ̀lẹ́.
Èmi Muhammad Sadiq.
Muhammad Sadiq ló fún yín. Ó ní ìtumọ̀ Muhammad ó lára ẹ̀wà ni àbí? Ẹ wo bó ti sọ àríwá di bọ́ọ̀lù. Allah ní hospital yẹ. Ẹ mọ jòkó ẹ̀jẹ̀lẹ̀ níìdì ẹ dìde ìjẹ̀lẹ̀ níìdì wọ́n pàṣẹ sí ní lára torí nǹkan ti bàjẹ́ lára yín lọ títí.
Kí ni mo máa ṣe yẹn?
Kí ló dé?
Owó yẹn ti lọ.
Ó ti lọ.
Mọ́tò yẹn ti lọ.
Ẹ má jẹ́ kọ́rọ̀ yín tà sí torí Ọlọ́run tàn nẹ́bí.
Mọ́tò yẹn ti lọ.
Gbogbo àwọn èèyàn ti lọ. Ẹ ṣe sùúrù ẹ padà wá. Ẹ padà wá.
Rámọ́tà ó ṣe é tán.
Ó ṣe é. Wọ́lá.
Ṣe é tán.
Ó ṣe é.
Hello Tatu ni.
Hello.
Ìyá Sẹ̀bílì.
Àti oníbọ̀kásà. Ṣé ẹ fẹ́ ní cancer?
Ìyá Sẹ́bílì kí ló ṣẹlẹ̀?
Dákun tí n bá fi fóònù ẹlòmíì pè ọ́ nígbàgbọ́. Dákun, ọjọ́ wo ló dá sọ mi padà tó sì dówó mi padà?
Ṣé bí mo sọ fún yín pé mi ti lo àwọn aṣọ ìtàn mo ṣe ń ṣe podcast tí mò ń ṣe. I am not done. Tí bá ti ṣe tán máa jẹ́ kẹ́ mọ̀.
Sọ gbádùn sá. Sórí rẹ burú ni. Ṣé kọ́ lórí rẹ jóná àbí play ẹ̀ lọ́dọ̀ tí? You dey mess. Ṣé supilisi dọ̀la mú ni? Mo bí ọ́ ní okò tí mo dá mi lóhùn báwọn.
Èmi ò tí ì ṣe podcast tí mò ń ṣe tán. Tí bá ti ṣe tán máa jẹ́ kẹ́ mọ̀. Kí ló ṣẹlẹ̀ gan? Ẹ dẹ̀ ń disturb mi, ó dàbọ̀ jàre.
Káwọn mọ̀lẹ́bí rẹ̀ ó jákò lórí aago fún ọ. Ọ̀fẹ́ sí ẹ̀sìn ọjà aago. Ọmọ ìmọ̀ ìjà aago mọ̀ létí.
Àbí kí ni wàhálà gan? Ramota, o ti cast o ti cast.
Seeing you again, yo. Good to see you.
This place looks familiar.
Fami. Fami kí n fa ẹni yẹn. Kí ló? Service apartment níbí. Ọ̀rẹ́ mi Danjuma tó ń gbé lọ́rin. Òun ló máa ń fún mi níbí ní gbogbo ìgbà tí mi bá ti ní business ní lọ́rin. Ibi ni mo máa ń wà kò dẹ̀ ń gbowó lọ́wọ́ mi. Èèyàn tó nice bàjẹ́ ni.
Service apartment ni.
Service apartment ni. Kò ń gbowó lọ́wọ́ mi kódà kí n fẹ́ lóṣù kan kò ní gba £1. Àbí inú ìjókòó alọ́rọ̀ láti sọ. Ó ní ohun tí mo fẹ́ já ẹ sí.
Mi lè jókòó.
Kí ló dé?
Mo fẹ́ débì kan. Mo ń bọ̀. Àgbẹ̀, I'll call you.
O fẹ́ débì kan àbínú?
Yes, I need to get to somewhere as fast as possible. Máa pè.
Kí ló dé? Ṣé bí tó ní ká lè sọ̀rọ̀ ṣẹ́ ló ṣe ní ká? Tí mo wà ní Ìlọrin tó yẹ ká sọ̀rọ̀ ṣẹ́ kí ló àbínú ńlá. Àbínú ńlá, sámínú ńlá là ni. Ṣé kìí ṣe pọ́n tó gbérù bọ̀bọ̀ ìlà tẹ́yìn? Bàbá mi ní ti kú sọ́wọ́ gbájú ẹ̀. Kò ṣáà lè jẹ̀rá mọ́. Alhaji Aminu ńlá. Aminu.
Hello, Alhaji Umar. Wallahi, you are right. Do you know that everything this guy is saying is all lies? Cousin Chihuahua, the house she took us to, that is her parents' house, is a service apartment. For God's sake. Kai. Ba mu shiga uku boko da ajiyar RAHMAT ɗin nan ba kuwa? Sai tsula ƙarya take yi. Why will a woman be lying like this? She will even drive her destiny airport, she won't even know. But lie to life, huh? I'm telling you. Kai. People can't lie. I don't know what they gain with lies.
Roscoe, ṣé pìtìpìtì ayé ò fẹ́ bá yín ṣá? Ṣé ṣiṣẹ́ owó sí mi lọ́wọ́ ni? Ibo lẹ ti fẹ́ kí n rí £10 million. Ẹ mà gbà mí, mo mà wá dáràn báyìí. Abirù wàhálà wo leléyìí? Ẹ fẹ́ pe ọkọ mi pé ẹ ní ìdí owó. Roscoe, ṣé mo nǹkan tí máa ṣe? Ṣé mo nǹkan tí máa sọ fọ́kọ mi ṣá? Máa sọ fún pé àtẹ̀yìn o àti ìyá fake tí mo ní kó wá represent ní ọjọ́ wedding. Ẹ̀yin méjèèjì ẹ ti ní accident, ẹ dẹ̀ ti kú dànù. Mọ́tò ti gbà yín, ẹ ti kú. Ìyẹn tún kọ́. Bẹ́ẹ̀ni, Roscoe, ẹ fẹ́ dẹ́ mi. Ẹ mọ èmi RAHMAT, ṣé bọ̀tì lẹ pè mí ni? Èmi ò mà kí ń ṣe bọ̀tì, pákó ni mí. Bẹ́ẹ̀ni. Ó dá mi ò ṣe wedding mọ́. A ní pé mi ò ṣe wedding mọ́ sẹ́ Roscoe, kí nìkan tẹ́ tí wàá fẹ́ ṣe sí? Ẹ máa forí jóná o. Mo mọ̀ nǹkan tí mo ń sọ o. Ó fún yín ní wèrè, wèrè lábí wọ wèrè o. Ẹ jẹ́ kó rí yín pé gidi gan ni. Kí ló ṣẹlẹ̀ gan-an?
Di aláṣejù àṣejù bàbá àṣetẹ́ wọlé wò di aláṣejù àṣejù bàbá àṣetẹ́.
This way.
Alhaji.
Iyawo Alhaji. Kò mọ̀ páyé onírọ́. Kò ìmọ̀. kì í ní sí mi o. Kò ì mọ̀, kò ì mọ̀, kò ì mọ̀. Torí tó bá parọ́ ẹyọ kan. Kò ì mọ̀, kò ì mọ̀, kò ì mọ̀. Yóò máa parọ́ ogún láti fi bò. Kò ì mọ̀, kò ì mọ̀, kò ì mọ̀. Ìyàwó Alhaji ò mọ̀ pé o. Kò ì mọ̀, kò ì mọ̀, kò ì mọ̀. Onírọ́ ò lọ́jọ́ ọ̀la. Kò ì mọ̀, kò ì mọ̀, kò ì mọ̀. Kò mọ̀ pé bí rọ́bà lọ fógún ọdún. Kò ì mọ̀, kò ì mọ̀, kò ì mọ̀. Ọjọ́ kan ló títọ́ yóò bá o. Kò ì mọ̀, kò ì mọ̀, kò ì mọ̀. Kò ì mọ̀, kò ì mọ̀, kò ì mọ̀. Kò ì mọ̀, kò ì mọ̀, kò ì mọ̀. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Kò ì mọ̀, kò ì mọ̀, kò ì mọ̀. Nọ́ọ̀kì, nọ́ọ̀kì, ìyàwó Alhaji o. Mo ní nọ́ọ̀kì, nọ́ọ̀kì, ìyàwó Alhaji o. Mo ti bọ́ sọ́wọ́ ìyàwó Alhaji. Mo rí irú èyí lò ó láyé tẹ̀sí tàbí ṣe. Bébí wọ́n ní ọba ń dojú lójú ìfúnra ẹ̀ lórí tó bá wọn.
What if I told you that one African nation defeated European colonizers when the entire continent was falling? What if I told you that this land may hold the oldest human bones ever discovered? A kingdom older than the many civilizations, a land of warrior emperors, ancient churches carved from mountains, lost empires, religious mysteries, and a calendar that lives in another year entirely. This is the story of Ethiopia, the land many call the cradle of humanity. Welcome to Arole Olodumare, where we uncover the world's deepest secrets. Long before modern civilization, before Rome, before Greece, before the pyramid reached their glory, humanity was already walking the lands of Ethiopia. In 1974, scientists made a shocking discovery in Ethiopia's Afar region. They uncovered the fossilized remains of a female human ancestor. Her name became Lucy. Lucy was over 3.2 million years old. She changed history forever. Her bones prove that some of the earliest human ancestors live in East Africa. This discovery caused many archaeologists to call Ethiopia the birthplace of mankind. But Ethiopia's stories was only beginning. Around 1000 BCE, ancient kingdoms were already rising in northern Ethiopia. One of the earliest was called the Mount. It is people built temples, irrigation systems, and trade network. They traded with Arabian across the Red Sea, and slowly a powerful civilization emerged, one that would become legendary, the Kingdom of Aksum. By the 1st century AD, Aksum became one of the greatest empires on earth, not just Africa, but the entire world. Historians say Aksum stood beside Rome, Persia, and China, and one of the most powerful civilizations of its time. Its merchants controlled major trade routes: gold, ivory, salt, and spices. Flowed through Ethiopian markets. The empire became rich, very rich, and then something happened that changed Ethiopia forever. Christianity arrived. In the 4th century, King Ezana converted to Christianity. This made Ethiopia one of the first Christian nations on earth. Long before many European kingdoms, Christianity became deeply connected to Ethiopian identity. Ancient churches rose across the land, priests guarded sacred traditions, and Ethiopia developed one of the oldest Christian cultures in existence. But Ethiopia also carried another mystery, a legend connected to the Bible itself. According to the Ethiopian tradition, the Queen of Sheba traveled to Jerusalem to meet King Solomon. Their meeting became legendary. The story says they had a son named Menelik. And Menelik later became Ethiopia's first emperor. Some Ethiopian tradition even claim the Ark of the Covenant was brought to Ethiopia. To this day, many believe it is hidden inside a guarded church in Aksum. No one is allowed to see it. The mystery remains unsolved. Centuries later, another Ethiopian king stunned the world, King Lalibela. Instead of building churches upward, he carved them downward, directly into solid rock. Entire churches, cut from mountains. This incredible structure became known as the Churches of Lalibela. Even modern engineers still wonder how they were built. For many believers, Lalibela became a second Jerusalem. Ethiopia history is filled with war. Empire rose, kingdom collapsed, invaders attacked from every direction. One of the deadliest invasions came in the 1500. A Muslim military leader named Ahmad ibn Ibrahim al-Ghazi, known as Ahmad Granny, launched a devastating war against Ethiopia. His armies destroyed churches and cities. The Ethiopian empires nearly collapsed, but with the help from Portuguese forces, Ethiopia fought back and survived. Again, by the 1800, European powers were conquering Africa. Britain, France, Belgium, Portugal, Germany, and Italy. Almost the entire continent fell under colonial rule, but Ethiopia refused to bow, and one emperor would change African history forever. His name was Menelik II. In 1896, Italy attempted to colonize Ethiopia. The Europeans believed victory would be easy. They were wrong. Menelik II united European forces from different ethnic groups. Tens of thousands of warriors marched toward Adwa. Then came one of the greatest battles in African history, the Battle of Adwa. Ethiopia crushed the Italian army. The victory shocked the entire world. For the first time in colonial era, an African empire defeated a European power in full-scale modern warfare. Adwa became a symbol of black pride and African resistance. Across the world, black communities celebrated Ethiopia. It became a beacon of freedom. But Italy never forgot the humiliation of Adwa. In 1935, Italian dictator Benito Mussolini invaded Ethiopia again, this time with tanks, airplanes, and poison gas. The war became brutal. Emperor Haile Selassie I appealed to the League of Nations, but the war mostly remained silent. Italy occupied Ethiopia for several years, yet Ethiopian resistance fighters never surrendered. Eventually, during World War II, Italy was defeated and Haile Selassie returned to power. Haile Selassie became one of the most famous African leaders in history. To many African and Black communities worldwide, he represented dignity and independence. In Jamaica, a spiritual movement called Rastafarianism became worshipping him as a divine figure. Ethiopia became spiritually important far beyond Africa. Its influence spread across the Black world, but change was coming. By the 1970s, Ethiopia faced poverty, famine, political unrest. In 1974, Haile Selassie was overthrown. The ancient monarchy ended. A military government known as the DAG seized power. Its leader, Mengistu Haile Mariam. The nation entered years of violence and fear. Thousands died during political purges called the Red Terror. Civil war spread, and Ethiopia entered one of the darkest periods in its history. For decades, Eritrea fought for independence from Ethiopia. Finally, in 1993, Eritrea became its own country, but peace did not last. Another brutal war erupted between Ethiopia and Eritrea from 1998 to 2000. Thousands were unalived. Now, here is something truly fascinating. Ethiopia follows a completely different calendar from most of the world. While many countries use the Gregorian calendar, Ethiopia uses the Ethiopian calendar. This calendar has 13 months, different calculations for the birth of Jesus Christ. That is why Ethiopia is about 7 to 8 years behind the Western calendar. While much of the world is in 2026, Ethiopia is around 2018. Yes, it is literally living in another year. An Ethiopian New Year, known as Enkutataash, is celebrated every September 11. Today, Ethiopia is one of the Africa's most influential nations. Its capital city, Addis Ababa, hosts the headquarters of the African Union. The country has over 100 million people, multiple ethnic groups, ancient traditions, rapid modernization, but modern Ethiopia still faces challenges, ethnic tensions, political conflict and economic struggles, and yet its spirit remains unbroken. Ethiopia is not just another country. It is one of the world's oldest civilizations, a symbol of African resistance, a land connected to the origins of humanity, a kingdom of ancient faith, a survivor of invasion and war. From Lucy to Aksum, to Adwa to Haile Selassie, Ethiopia's history continues to inspire millions across the world. Ethiopia is one of the Africa's largest economies. Its economy is driven by agriculture, coffee exports, manufacturing, construction, gold, livestock, and aviation. Ethiopia's GDP, as of recent estimates, is over $150 billion. It is among the fastest growing economies in Africa in recent decades. However, despite economic growth, millions of Ethiopians still face poverty and unemployment. The country continues trying to modernize its economy while dealing with political and ethnic tensions. Ethiopia is one of the Africa's most religious countries. Its major religion includes Christianity around 62%, Islam around 34%, traditional beliefs and others around 4%. Most Ethiopian churches belong to Ethiopian Orthodox Church, Protestant churches, and Catholic churches. Islam has existed in Ethiopia since the earliest days of Islam. In fact, some of Prophet Muhammad's followers once fled persecution and found refuge in Ethiopia. Ethiopia has had kings, emperors, military rulers, and prime ministers. Here are some of the most important rulers in Ethiopian history. Ancient and Aksumite rulers: Zoskels, Endubis, Afilans, King Ezana, Caleb. Dagwe dynasty: Maratakla, Haimonid, Lalibela, Yemrehana Krestos. Solomonic dynasty: Yekuno Amlak, Amda Seyon 1, Zara Yakob, Lebna Dengel, Sensei Yos 1. Ethiopia has a president and a prime minister. The prime minister holds most executive power. Current prime minister Abiy Ahmed. Current president Taye Atse Selassie. Ethiopia has an embassy in Nigeria. Ethiopia Embassy in Nigeria located in Abuja, Nigeria. The embassy handles visa applications, diplomatic relations, passport services, travel assistance. If someone wants to visit Ethiopia, there are several entry options. E-visa. Ethiopia offers an electronic visa system. Travelers can apply online before arrival. Another one, visa on arrival. Some travelers may qualify for visa on arrival depending on nationality. Requirements usually include valid passports, passport photograph, travel itinerary, hotel reservation, return ticket, and visa fee payment. Sometimes vaccination records may be required, especially yellow fever certificate for some African travelers. Foreigners can work, study, invest, or live in Ethiopia. However, migration comes with challenges. Like many countries, Ethiopia has areas that can be dangerous. Potential risks include ethnic conflicts, political protests, religious instability, inflation, language barriers, limited infrastructure in some regions. Certain border regions may experience violence or military activity. That is why travelers should always check current security advice, respect local laws, and avoid conflict zones. But many parts of Ethiopia remain peaceful and culturally rich. Ethiopia is located in East Africa. It belongs to the Horn of Africa region. Neighboring countries include Eritrea, Sudan, South Sudan, Kenya, Somalia, and Djibouti. Its location made Ethiopia an important center for trade, religion, migration, and ancient civilizations. Ethiopia has many colorful festivals. Some of the most famous include Enkutatash, Ethiopia New Year, Timkat, Ethiopia Epiphany, Meskel, Finding of the True Cross, Jenna, Ethiopian Christmas, Fesical, Ethiopian Easter, Eid al-Fitr, Muslim celebration, Eid al-Adha, Muslim sacrifice festival, Irecha, Oromo Thanksgiving festival. Ethiopia contributes many products to the world market. Its biggest exports include coffee. Ethiopia is famous worldwide for coffee. Many believe coffee originated there. Gold mining contributes heavily to the economy. Livestock. Ethiopia has one of the African largest livestock populations. Flowers, especially roses, exported to Europe. Leather products. Shoes and leather goods are major exports. Airlines. Ethiopia Airlines is one of the African biggest and most respected airlines. Ethiopia is more than a nation. It is one of humanity's oldest homes, a symbol of African independence, a spiritual center, a rising economic power, a country balancing ancient traditions with modern ambition. Its story continues to shape Africa and the world. From ancient kingdoms to modern skyscraper, from warrior emperors to global diplomacy, Ethiopia remains one of the most fascinating countries on earth. This is Arole Olodumare. Subscribe for more powerful African history documentaries. African history must never be forgotten. Bye for now. Trump's grandfather was Frederick Trump. Frederick was born in Germany in 1869. As a young man, he immigrated to the United States seeking opportunity and a better future. During the gold rush era, Frederick operated restaurants and hotels, serving miners and travelers. Over time, he built wealth and established the Trump family's early business foundation. He later married Elizabeth Christ Trump. After Frederick died in 1918, during the influenza pandemic, Elizabeth helped continue the family business. Together, they laid the foundation for what would later become the Trump real estate empire. Donald Trump's father was Fred Trump. He was born in 1905. Fred Trump became a highly successful real estate developer in New York. He focused mainly on apartment building, housing development, middle-class housing projects. Fred was known as extremely disciplined, tough in business, financially smart, and competitive. He built thousands of homes across New York City and became a millionaire long before Donald entered business. Fred strongly influenced Donald's personality. Many people believe Donald learned aggressive negotiation, confidence, business ambition, and competitive thinking directly from his father. Donald Trump's mother was Mary Ann MacLeod Trump. She was born in Scotland in 1912 on the Isle of Lewis. Mary came from a humble background and immigrated to America in search of a better life. Unlike Fred's street personality, Mary was often described as calm, elegant, religious, and family-oriented. She loved tradition and played a strong role in raising the children. Donald later said his mother had a strong social personality and loved glamour, something many believe influenced his attraction to luxury and fame. Donald John Trump was born on June 14, 1946 in Queens, New York City. He was the fourth of 5 children in the Trump family. From childhood, Donald displayed confidence, energy, competitiveness, strong emotions, and leadership tendencies. But it was also difficult to control. Teachers and relatives described him as aggressive and rebellious. Donald grew up in a wealthy environment, but his home was highly disciplined. His father expected hard work, strength, and success. Donald loved sports, attention, competition, and winning. He reportedly disliked weakness and hating loose. As he became more rebellious, his parents decided to send him away to military school. At the age of 13, Donald was sent to New York Military Academy. The school focused on discipline, leadership, and military structure. Trump adapted surprisingly well. He became active in sports, leadership activities, and student competition. Many people believe military school helped shape his commanding personality, his confidence, and his aggressive communication style. After military school, Trump attended Fordham University. He later transferred to University of Pennsylvania, one of the America's top business schools. He graduated in 1968 with a degree in economics. At that point, Donald was preparing to join the family business. Trump joined his father's company, which later became the Trump Organization. Unlike his father, Donald wanted luxury and publicity. He moved aggressively into Manhattan real estate. Trump became famous for luxury hotels, casinos, office towers, golf resorts, and branding deals. One of his most famous projects was Trump Tower. The building became a symbol of wealth and celebrity culture. Despite success, Trump also experienced major failures. Several of his businesses struggled financially. Some casinos and companies declared bankruptcy. Critics predicted his downfall many times, but Trump repeatedly rebuilt his image and returned to the public attention. That ability to survive failure became central to his public identity. Donald Trump became known worldwide as a billionaire. His wealth has changed over the years depending on property values, business performance, investment, and branding deals. His wealth has often been estimated in billions of dollars. His money comes from real estate, golf resorts, hotel, licensing deals, media ventures. Regardless of exact number, Trump successfully transformed his name into a global brand. Trump's fame exploded globally through The Apprentice. Trump had spoken about politics for many years, but in 2015, he officially announced his presidential campaign. Most political experts believed he could never win, but Trump used social media, massive rallies, television coverage, strong nationalist messaging to dominate public attention. In 2016, he defeated Hillary Clinton and became the 45th President of the United States. Donald Trump never fought personally as a soldier. However, during his presidency, he oversaw military actions involving Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, ISIS operations, Iran tensions. He authorized the operation that unalived the ISIS leader, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. He also ordered the strike that unalived the Iranian general Qasem Soleimani. Trump identified as a Christian. He has connection to Presbyterian Christianity and non-denominational Christianity. Religion became an important part of his political image and support base. Donald Trump enjoys playing golf, watching television, reading newspaper, public speaking, business negotiation, luxury living, and political rallies. Golf is considered his favorite hobby. He owns multiple golf resorts worldwide. Donald Trump has been married 3 times. His first wife, Ivana Trump, she has 3 children for him. The first name, Donald Trump Jr., was born 1977. Ivanka Trump was born 1981. Eric Trump was born 1984. The second wife, Maya Maples, got only 1 child for him. The name was Tiffany Trump. She was born 1993. The current wife, Melania Trump, she got only 1 child for him, Baron Trump. He was born 2006. Donald Trump has several grandchildren through his children. Some of the best known include Kyle Trump, Donald Trump III, Tristan Trump, Spencer Trump, Chloe Trump, Arabella Kushner, Joseph Kushner, Theodore Kushner. His grandchildren are often seen at political events and family gatherings. Trump's presidency faced major controversies, especially during COVID-19. His handling of pandemic divided public opinion. He also became the first US president impeached 2 times. Trump lost the election 2020 to Joe Biden, but he refused to fully accept the results. This eventually contributed to January 6 Capitol attack, one of the most controversial moments in modern American history. In conclusion, from immigrant family roots to billionaire businessman to television celebrity to President of the United States, Donald Trump became one of the most recognized figures on earth. Loved by supporters, criticized by opponents, but impossible to ignore. If you enjoyed this documentary, subscribe now to Ariyo on YouTube and TikTok. Like this video, share it with others, and drop your comments. Until next time, keep learning, keep discovering, and keep the story alive. In the early 1800s, deep inside the forest of Yoruba land, a young boy was watched his world born. His hometown was destroyed. His family was captured, and chains were placed around his neck. That little boy was about to be sold forever into slavery. But history had another plan for him. He will rise from slavery to become the first African bishop in history. He will bring education, Christianity, literacy, and Bible translation to West Africa. His name was Samuel Ajayi Crowther. Welcome to Ariyo on YouTube and TikTok, where African history, hidden truths, and powerful stories come alive. If you love deep African documentaries like this, subscribe right now, like this video, and turn on the notification bell, because today we are going to deep into the real story of Bishop Samuel Ajayi Crowther. Samuel Ajayi Crowther was born around 1807 in Oshogun town, near present-day Oyo State, Nigeria. At that time, Nigeria did not yet exist as one country. The land was divided into kingdoms and empires. The Yoruba Empire, the Benin Kingdom, the Hausa city-states, and many others. Ajayi was born into a Yoruba family. His father was believed to be a farmer and local weaver, a respected man in the community. His mother was known as a hardworking Yoruba woman who deeply cared for her children and traditions. But the world around them was changing rapidly. West Africa had become one of the biggest centers of the slave trade. For hundreds of years, millions of Africans were being captured and sold. Entire villages disappeared overnight. Families were broken forever. And the nightmare was coming closer to Ajayi's home. Around 1821, when Ajayi was about 12 years old, war exploded across Yoruba land. The Owu War had begun. Slave raiders moved from village to village. Homes were burned. Children were kidnapped. People were tied with ropes like animals. One terrible day, Ajayi's hometown was attacked. Chaos filled the air. People were screaming as warriors stormed the village. Ajayi, his mother, and members of his family were captured. Bound together, marched through forests, beaten, sold from one trader to another. For months, the young boy witnessed human suffering beyond imagination. Eventually, he was taken toward the coast, and there, Portuguese slave traders bought him. Ajayi was forced onto a slave ship, a floating prison filled with fear, disease, and death. He was about to disappear into the Atlantic slave trade forever, but destiny intervened. Before the Portuguese ship crossed the Atlantic Ocean, something unexpected happened. The British Royal Navy appeared. At this time, Britain had officially started fighting against the slave trade. Their anti-slavery naval force, known as the West African Squadron, intercepted the slave ship across the Atlantic coast. The Portuguese ship carrying Ajayi was stopped. The captives were freed. For the first time in months, the chains came off. Ajayi's life had been saved. The freed captives were taken to Freetown in Sierra Leone, and this was the beginning of a new chapter. In Sierra Leone, Ajayi encountered something that would change his destiny forever. Education. Christian missionaries began teaching the rescued slaves how to read, how to write, and how to speak English. Ajayi learned quickly, very quickly. Teachers soon realized that this young Yoruba boy was extremely intelligent. In 1825, he was baptized into Christianity, and during baptism, he received a new name, Samuel Crowther. The name Crowther came from an Anglican clergyman. From that day forward, Ajayi became known as Samuel Ajayi Crowther. But unlike many others, Samuel never forgot where he came from. He understood African languages, African traditions, and African suffering, and that would later make him one of the most important Africans in modern history. As Samuel grew older, he became deeply passionate about language and education. At that time, Many African languages had never been fully written down. So, Samuel began one of the greatest work of his life. He started translating the Bible into Yoruba. This was revolutionary because for the first time, many Yoruba people could read religious texts in their own language. Samuel also wrote Yoruba grammar books, dictionaries, language materials, and educational texts. He helped transform Yoruba into a major written African language. This was not just religion anymore. This was cultural preservation. This was intellectual liberation. And slowly, Samuel Crowther became famous across West Africa. From the 1840s onward, Samuel traveled across West Africa. He entered dangerous territories many Europeans feared. He preached across Yoruba land, Igbo regions, Niger territories, Nupe land, and Hausa areas. But Samuel's mission was bigger than preaching. He believed Africans deserve education, literacy, leadership, and dignity. So wherever he went, schools were established. Children learned how to read. Communities learned new skills. Christian missions spread rapidly. And many historians today believe Samuel Crowther helped lay the foundation for modern Western education in Nigeria. Without him, education in many parts of Nigeria may have developed very differently. Samuel later married a woman named Susan Crowther. She too had once been rescued from slavery. She originally known as Asana. She came from a Muslim background before converting to Christianity. Susan became a teacher, a missionary assistant, and strong supporter of Samuel's work. Together, they built one of the most influential Christian families in West African history. They had several children. One of the most famous was Dadinson Cotes Crowther, who later became an Anglican archdeacon and missionary. Another important family connection came through his daughter Abigail, because Samuel Crowther later became the grandfather of Abat Macaulay, one of the founding fathers of Nigerian nationalism. Many Samuel Crowther's family influenced religion, education, and Nigerian politics. Then came the moment that changed African church history forever. In 1864, Samuel Ajayi Crowther was consecrated in England as the first African Anglican bishop. This was historic. At a time when Europeans looked down on Africans, Samuel Crowther stood before the world as a bishop. Educated, respected, and powerful, a former slave had now become one of the highest Christian leaders on earth. For Africans across the continent, this became a symbol of hope, proof that Africans could lead themselves, proof that Africans could achieve greatness despite slavery and colonial oppression. But Samuel's greatest battle were not over. Even after becoming bishop, many European missionaries still refuse to fully trust African leadership. Racism poisoned the church system. Some Europeans believe Africans should never lead churches independently. Many of Samuel's African workers were removed unfairly. His authority was slowly weakened. The man who gave his life to Christianity was humiliated by the same institution he served. It broke his heart, but Samuel never abandoned his mission. He continued preaching, he continued teaching and translating until old age. On December 31st, 1891, Samuel Ajayi Crowther died in Lagos after suffering from a stroke. He was over 80 years old, but his legacy never died. Today, he is remembered as the first African Anglican bishop, a survivor of slavery, a Bible translator, an educator, and a linguist, and one of the fathers of modern Christianity in West Africa. The Yoruba Bible he translated still exists today. The schools connected to his mission transformed generations, and his stories remain one of the greatest African stories ever told. A boy once chained for slavery ended up changing an entire continent. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's life teaches us something powerful. No matter where you begin, your story does not have to end there. From slavery to bishop, from suffering to greatness, from chains to legacy. This is why African history must never be forgotten. If you enjoyed this documentary, subscribe now to Arole Olodumare on YouTube and TikTok. Like this video, share it with others, and comment below what part of Samuel Crowther's story shocked you the most. Until next time, keep learning, keep discovering, and keep the African story alive. Imagine a country where fuel is cheaper than water, education is completely free, healthcare is free. A country so rich, it is people didn't worry about survival.
Then suddenly, bombs fall from the sky, the leader is haunted, the government collapses, and within months, the entire nation is gone.
How did Libya rise to power? Why did the United States and its allies attack it? And how did one of the Africa's richest nations fall into chaos? To understand this, we must go back thousands of years. Long before oil, before modern borders, Libya was already important. The first known people here were the Berbers, also called Amazigh. They were warriors, traders, survivors of the deserts. Then came the Phoenicians. Around 1000 BC, they built powerful trading posts along the coast. Libya became a gateway between Africa and Europe. But then came the Greeks. They built the city of Cyrene, a city of knowledge, philosophy, and weight. And then the empire that conquered almost everything, which is the Roman Empire. Libya became one of Rome's richest regions. Grain flowed from Libya to feed the empire, but no empire lasts forever. Rome fell, and Libya changed hands again. In the 7th century, a powerful new force emerged, the Islam. Muslim armies swept across North Africa. Libya became part of the Umayyad Caliphate, then later the Abbasid Caliphate. Islam spread deeply, and today almost all Libyans are Muslim. But Libya was still not independent. It was ruled by empires, not by itself. In 1551, Libya became part of the Ottoman Empire. Local rulers like the Kamanli dynasty governed the land, but real power was far away, in Istanbul. For centuries, Libya waited. Then came 1911. Italy invaded Libya. The people resisted, led by a fearless man, Omar Mukhtar. He fought using guerrilla warfare, but Italy responded with brutality. Village destroyed, people in prison, thousands unalive. Omar Mukhtar was captured and executed. Libya was crushed. After World War II, Libya finally became free. In 1951, a king was crowned, Idris I. Then came the discovery that changed everything. It was oil. Libya became rich, very rich. In 1969, a young officer launched a coup. His name was Muammar Gaddafi. He removed the king and promised power to the people. He nationalized oil and used the wealth for the citizens. Free education, free healthcare, housing support. Libya became one of the richest countries in Africa. But there was another side. No elections, no opposition, total control. Gaddafi ruled for over 40 years. Gaddafi challenged global powers, especially the United States. He was accused of supporting militant groups. Then came a shocking event, Lockerbie bombing. Libya was blamed. Sanctions followed. The country was isolated. In 2011, protests began during the Arab Spring. The government responded with force. Then NATO intervened, led by NATO, with support from the United States. Airstrike destroyed military targets. Gaddafi's government collapsed. He was captured and unalive. People expected freedom. Instead, it was chaos. Militias took over. Private government formed. Libya split into regions: Tripolitania, Cyrenaica, and Fezzan. Today, Libya has no single ruler. Power is divided between government of national unity and forces led by Khalifa Haftar. The country remains unstable. Libya had everything: wealth, power, and opportunity. But today, division, conflict, uncertainty. So ask yourself, was Libya destroyed from within or from outside? If you want more powerful, eye-opening stories like this, subscribe now to Ariyo Olodumare on YouTube and TikTok, because the next story might be even more shocking. Bye for now. Before borders were drawn, before nations were named, before history was written, there were people who followed the land. Across the vast plains of West Africa, from the edge of the Sahara to the green lands of the south, there is a people who belong everywhere and nowhere at all. Would you believe if I tell you there exists a people with no single country, no single king, yet they helped build one of the most powerful empires in African history? Yes, you should believe it, because this story is real. Welcome to Ariyo Olodumare, where we uncover the world's deepest secrets. If you are ready to see Africa differently, stay with me. Every civilization has a beginning, a date, a founder, a clear origin. But the Fulanis, they are different. There is no exact year they were formed, no single ancestor, no moment where everything began. Instead, their story stretches across centuries. Over 1,000 years ago, in region where we now call Senegal, Guinea and Mali, a people began to shape, not suddenly, but slowly. They blending cultures, adapting to land, evolving through time. They were not created, they were formed by history itself. To understand the Fulanis, you must understand one thing: the cattle. Cattle were not just animals, they were life. Milk was food, eggs were weight, livestock meant survival. But the land was unstable. Rain would come, then disappear. Grass would grow, then vanish. And when the land changed, the Fulani had two choices: they move or they die. So they moved south during drought, north when the rain returned. Again and again and again, this system became known as transhumance. But this wasn't just movement, it became identity. Over generations, the Fulani spread across the land, not through conquest, but through survival. From Senegal to Mali to Niger to Nigeria to Cameroon, they follow grass, they follow water, they follow life, and slowly they became one of the most widespread people in Africa. And what happened next changes everything. If you are still watching, subscribe now to Ariyo Olodumare on YouTube and follow us on TikTok, because this next chapter is where power begins. In the early 19th century, a man appeared. His name was Usman Dan Fodio. He was a scholar in Islam, a teacher and a reformer, but also a revolutionary. He saw corruption, he saw injustice, he saw a society losing its direction. And in 1804, he acted, he launched a jihad, not just war but reform. A movement to rebuild society based on faith and discipline. And from that movement came an empire. One of the largest empires in African history, stretches across northern Nigeria, Niger and part of Cameroon. It reshaped governance, religion and education. The Fulani were no longer just herders, they were rulers. Today, many ask who lead the Fulani, and the answer is surprising. There is no single leader, no global king. Instead, leadership is local. In Nigeria, the Sultan of Sokoto stands as a spiritual authority. Elsewhere, leaderships come from elders, chiefs and community head. Decentralized yet connected. To understand the Fulani, you must understand one word: Pulaku. This is their code of life. It represents self-control, respect, patience, courage, and modesty. A Fulani person is not judged by weight, but by discipline, by character, by how they carry themselves, even under pressure. Imagine this: a young man stands before a crowd. He is about to be whipped publicly, and he must not react. No fear, no pain, no weakness. This is the Sharo festival, a test of courage, a test of identity. The majority of Fulani people are Muslim. Islam shapes their education, their laws, and their daily lives. From prayer to leadership to tradition, faith is central to identity. Today, the Fulanis are spread across Nigeria, Guinea, Senegal, Mali, Niger, Cameroon, Chad, Burkina Faso, and Gambia. They are not one nation, they are a people beyond borders. Many ask, what is the Fulani mission? The truth is simple: there is no single mission. Historically, they moved to survive. At times, they led religious reform. Today, they are farmers, leaders, scholars in Islam, business people. They are not one story, they are many. The Fulani are not just herders, they are history in motion. A people shaped by land, by movement, and by faith. No borders, no single ruler, yet their influence stretches across Africa. To understand Africa, you must understand the Fulanis. If this open your mind, subscribe now to Olodumare on YouTube and follow us on TikTok, because the real story of Africa is deeper than you have been told, and this is the only beginning. Everything you think you know about Egypt is incomplete. The pyramid, the pharaoh, even the people living there today. There is a part of the story they didn't teach you. A civilization that lasted over 5,000 years, ruled by god kings, conquered by empires, yet somehow it never disappeared. And by the end of this video, you will understand how Egypt rose, how it fell, and why it still exists today. But first, we need to answer one question: how did a desert become the greatest civilization on earth? This is Olodumare, where we uncover the world's deepest secrets. Look at Egypt on a map. Almost everything is desert. So how did millions of people survive here? At about thousands of years ago, the answer is a river. River Nile. Every year it flooded, and when the water went down, it left behind something priceless: fertile land, food, life, and this is where everything began. But something happened around 3100 BCE that changed history forever. At a time when the world was still scattered into a small tribe, one man did something no one had ever done before. His name is Nama. He didn't just rule, he united an entire civilization. Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt became one, and just like that, the first true kingdom in history was born. But Nama didn't call himself a king, he became something far more powerful. They were called Pharaoh, but here is something most people don't know. Pharaoh didn't originally mean the king. The name Pharaoh came from the word Pera, which means great house. At first, it referred to the palace, the center of power, but over time, the palace became the ruler, and the ruler became the state itself. So a pharaoh wasn't just a king, he was Egypt, a living god walking among men, and some of them would try to live forever. Imagine this: you are living 4,500 years ago. No machines, no electricity, and yet you build something so massive. It still stands till today. Over 2 million stone, each weighing tons, perfectly aligned. For centuries, people ask the same question: how? Aliens? Lost technology? And the answer is no. The truth is even more impressive. It was human intelligence, organization, and power. But here's the real question: why building something like this? The answer lies in depth. Egypt wasn't just building, it was fighting, expanding, dominating, and one man became the face of that power. His name, Ramesses II. A ruler so powerful, he called himself a god. He led massive armies, fought one of the greatest battles in ancient history, and turned Egypt into a superpower. But even power like this doesn't last forever. For thousands of years, one story has been told over and over again. A powerful pharaoh chasing his enemies, only to be swallowed by the sea. Some say it was Ramesses II, but when historians searched for evidence, they found something unexpected. The answer was no record, no proof, no confirmation. So what really happened? Was it a real event or a story that grew over time? The truth is more complicated than most people think. So now here is where things get controversial. Look at ancient Egyptian painting, then look at a modern Egypt. Many people ask, what happened to the original Egyptians? Were they replaced or did they survive? The answer is not what most people expect, because modern Egyptians are still ancient Egypt, but over thousands of years they mixed, evolved, and changed, not replaced or transformed. Empire rise, empire fall, but Egypt refused to disappear. From the first pharaoh to the modern world, it remains one of the greatest civilizations in human history. And now you know the real story. Subscribe to Ariyo Olodumare on YouTube, where we uncover world's deepest secrets. See you in the next episode. Until then, stay blessed. What if I told you a tiny island, smaller than most cities, has become one of the most strategically powerful places on earth? A country where the runs one of its most important naval bases. Billions of dollars in oil pass nearby every single day, and one royal family has held power for over 200 years. But here is the part no one explains. This island has been invaded, fought over, controlled by empires, and nearly torn apart from within. So how did it survive? How did this small nation become a global power center in the world? And why is the world watching it so closely today? This is the untold story of Bahrain. My name is Ariyo Olodumare. This is where we uncover the world's deepest secrets. Long before oil, before modern nations, Bahrain was known as Demon. Over 4,000 years ago, this island was one of the most richest trading hubs on earth. Ships from ancient Mesopotamia arrived here, carrying goods, gold, and stories. Some ancient texts even describe Demon as a paradise on earth. But paradise attracts power, and power attracts war. Over centuries, Bahrain became a battlefield of empires. The Persians took it, then the Greeks arrived, calling it Tylos. Then Islamic forces reshaped its identity forever. But the chaos didn't end there. In 1515, the Portuguese Empire invaded, turning Bahrain into a colonial outpost. Almost over 100 years later, Persia took it back again. Bahrain was never free for long until one moment changed everything. In 1783, a powerful Arab dynasty rose to power. They defeated Persian forces and took control of the island. But here is what makes Bahrain different from most nations. That same family still rules till today, more than 200 years later, in a region filled with revolutions and collapsed empires. They never lost control. But even rulers faced stronger powers. In the 1800, Bahrain's entered agreement with by 1861, it became a British protectorate. For over a century, Britain controlled its foreign policy. Bahrain had rulers but not full independence. Then everything changed in 1932. Bahrain became the first Gulf country to discover oil. Suddenly, wealth exploded, infrastructure grew, and the island transformed. But wealth brings ambition, and ambition demands freedom. On August 15, 1971, Bahrain finally broke free. It became an independent nation, led by the king, a leader who guided the country into a new era. But independence was just the beginning. In 1999, power shifted. His son took control. Then in 2002, he made a bold move. He declared Bahrain a kingdom. He introduced reforms like elections, women's voting rights, and a more open political system. But beneath the surface, tensions remained. Bahrain is an Islamic country, but not a strict one. It uses a mixed system like civil law, Sharia law for family matters. This balance makes it different from stricter Gulf states. But religion is only part of the story. Power is the bigger one. Here is where things get serious. Bahrain hosts one of the most important US military bases in the world, the 5th Fleet. This makes it a key ally of the US. In 2002, Bahrain was named a major non-NATO ally. Why does this matter? Because whoever controls this region controls global energy routes. Bahrain sits near one of the most important waterways on Earth. A huge percentage of the world's oil passes through here. If this route is blocked, global economies could collapse. That is why Bahrain matters. Bahrain has about 1.5 million people, but here is the twist. Many citizens are Shia Muslims. The ruling family is Sunni. This difference protests erupted during the Arab Spring. The government responded strongly, and since then the situation has remained sensitive. Today, Bahrain is a financial hub, a modern Gulf state, and a key global ally. But beneath the luxury skyline, there are still questions about the future. From ancient paradise to global power center, Bahrain is not just a small island. It is a nation shaped by war, power, and survival. And in today's world, its importance is only growing. Subscribe to Ariyo Olodumare, where we uncover the world's deepest secrets. Till the next episode, stay blessed.